After 3 years riding in this Shoei RF-SR, I can safely say this helmet's quality punches way above its entry-level price. And it's one of the only helmets in this price range that you can wear on a racetrack in the US. So let me get into the review. So I bought this helmet 3 years ago in the US mainly because it is Snell approved. And I was looking for a helmet that did better than the really bad DOT rating because I was about to ride across the US. So I took this helmet in the summer for about 80, 90 days of riding, like 3 hours a day average, riding over 12,000 miles all over the US. And this was my helmet for that entire journey. Now I use it as my primary touring helmet here in Thailand. So I've tested this thing in all conditions. Super hot weather in the desert.
Don't ride in the desert in July. Whew, I'm hot.
Super hot weather with 100% humidity here in Thailand. I've ridden it through rainstorms, through tropical storms, through cold, through snow. I've really pushed it to the limit. And as you can see, I cleaned it up, but there's little dents and scuffs all over it because I've ridden this helmet very, very hard. So here are 4 highlights about this helmet that I really love. One is the vents. They are huge and flow a ton of air. So even here in Thailand where I get 100% humidity, 100 Fahrenheit plus temperatures, I get a ton of airflow through here. The other thing is that the visor locks down like a safe. So you get these really nice detents in here that keep it locked in place at different levels. And then you get this on the left side, this clip from the RF-1200 that holds the visor down in place. Many of the materials are also the same as what Shoei uses in the RF-1200 and the newer RF-1400, but the price is a lot less. And really having that Snell certification with a composite shell on the outside is really bonkers at this price range. You're usually paying $800, $1,000 for this kind of helmet, but this is only $500. And remember, Snell is a requirement to ride on most racetracks in the USA, so I'll get to more on that later. So a few experiences in this helmet that I want to highlight that'll kind of show you what I love about it. First, the performance in extreme heat. So like I said, I ride in 100 Fahrenheit plus 100% humidity very often in this helmet. And with these 3 vents alone, you see this chin vent is massive and you have 2 big holes up here. It pulls in a lot of air and vents it out the back. And that really keeps me very cool, even in really, really hot conditions out here. The design on the inside, it also channels airflow really effectively. And I'll show you a close-up. There are channels inside the EPS foam, and then Shoei has drilled holes on the very innermost layer so that you don't feel those channels on your head, but it's pulling the air right out and out the back and venting a lot of that heat. And it's worth mentioning, this is the same design that's in the RF-1400. They just put it in a cheaper lid with the RF-SR. So some reviews say that this doesn't vent very well on sport bikes or in a sport riding position. I don't really know where that comes from because I ride all kinds of bikes out here in Thailand and I ride a lot of sport bikes, and it flows air just as well on a sport bike as it does in an upright kind of bagger touring or dual sport or adventure scenario. So another thing I love is this secure visor. So I'll pop it open again and you'll see here, you have these detents on the side. I'll do a close up and the visor will stick at any point within those detents and kind of keep it open a little bit. So actually I ride like this a lot now where it's just a little bit open if it's rainy out because this starts to fog up. There is a pin lock visor included, but I put so many miles in this helmet. The pin lock visor, because I rode up a lot in Thailand, got a lot of dust and rocks under it and just scratched the visor. And so it made it kind of hard to see, especially at night when I was getting a lot of glare on those scratches. So took the pin lock visor off and haven't replaced it yet because I'm going to replace the whole helmet anyway. It's getting kind of old. So the visor is really nice. It's big. I can see everything. And I love how it locks down into place like that. Another thing to mention is there's a spring in here that has a very specific purpose. So you'll see when the visor comes into its final position, that will pull the whole visor down towards the gasket here and seal it super well, which makes for a lot better wind noise reduction and just a more comfortable riding experience. I also want to mention I installed my Cardo Pack Talk Edge into here and it was super easy. So Shoei actually, I'm finding out, kind of set the standard for having these speaker pockets inside the helmet where the speaker sits in the shell instead of pushing against your head. So I have the speakers in there right now for this system, And because of the shell design here with just a very thin outer lip, you can use clamp mounts, which is really nice because I'm finding a lot of modern helmets, for some reason, they have thick, weird bottoms, or they're made ready for Bluetooth units, which basically means made ready for our really crappy branded unit that you can install into the shell. I don't really care about having a little thing on the side, so I like these clamp mounts because to me they stick better than the sticky mounts. I just trust it more, and it's easier to pull it on and off if I want to take it off for whatever reason. It's easy to just yank it right off with a clamp mount. It's also worth mentioning Shoei includes these little inserts, and they come in the helmet when you buy it. And you can take these out to put in your speakers, but they actually help reduce the wind noise a lot, because if those cavities were open, that's a space where wind can get in there and create noise and blow around. So these kind of sit next to your ears and reduce a lot of wind noise. Very useful. One other side note about product quality. So I have the little bag that originally came with the Shoei with some information about the pin lock and stickers and whatnot. They give you this silicone gel, which you can see I've used a tiny bit of it, and I don't think I even used it on this helmet. It's for the gasket to go around to keep the gasket soft. I've never had to use that oil, and this gasket still feels brand new and seals perfectly. There's zero cracking around this entire gasket. So that's a testament to Shoei product quality, and it's why people pay $500, $1,000 for Shoei versus a cheaper helmet that might look the same but does not have this kind of product quality. So a couple things you need to know. One, this is fit for a Western head, but that's because I bought it in the US. So I actually went to the Shoei gallery in Kyoto recently. They have a couple locations around Japan, and I believe they have locations in the US and EU as well. And at the Shoei gallery, they show you a bunch of different products, a bunch of different helmets, and they will help fit the helmet to you. And the reps there explained to me something that I kind of understood, but had never had it explained so well, that different markets have not only different names for their helmets, but different fits. So the RF-SR, I'm blanking on the name right now, but I'll put it in the text, has a different name in Japan. The RF-1400 is called the Z8. And I actually tried on the Z8 while I was in Kyoto. And because it's more of an Asian fit, so it's going to be a more round fit that's wider and shorter versus sort of an American or Western fit, it didn't fit my head well. And they tried to fill it in with padding, but at some point it's just not enough. And I felt, I should just wait until I go to the US and buy an EU fit helmet. So this helmet that I bought in the US, and any RF-SR that you buy in the US, it's gonna be fit to a more elongated head, what's called an intermediate oval head. So just keep that in mind. If you're Asian or if you have a more round head, you might actually want to buy a Z8 or a similar helmet that's built, again, I'm blanking on the name of the RF-SR version in Japan, but you might want to buy them in a different market because it will have a different head shape fit. One thing to note though, if you buy in Japan, a lot of people want to buy in Japan because it's cheaper right now because of the yen. The helmet quality will be probably exactly the same, but they are not DOT rated in Japan. That's because Japan has completely different laws around helmet safety, so they don't produce helmets for the Japanese market that are DOT rated. So it's not going to be legal to wear in the US if you mind that. If you do really worry about that and you want a DOT, I do this all in quotes because DOT is not a very good standard, and I think everyone who has bought more than one helmet probably knows that. So I don't really think much of DOT, but it is the legal standard. You need a DOT certified helmet. This is going to be way more protective, even if you buy it in Japan, probably than most DOT certified helmets. So just something to note. One other kind of downside to this helmet that I've noticed, and maybe it's just my head shape and how I wear it, but the vents whistle. And I've heard this from other reviewers as well. At certain angles, the vents create a little bit of a whistle. And if I have earplugs in, if I'm listening to music, I don't always notice it. It only really happens at really high speeds when I'm going like over 90 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour, then it will start whistling. But it's just something to mention, especially if you're on a track, you're going really fast, you have the vents open, it might get kind of fatiguing and annoying. One other thing to note is there is no drop-down sun shield in this. A lot of people looking for a good touring helmet, and I was in this category when I bought this going across the US. I wanted that drop-down sun shield, and this does not have it. The upside of that is the vents are going to go right into your forehead and around. So you're going to get a lot better ventilation because you don't have a sun shield there blocking it. When it's down, it's going to allow that through, but you don't have that sun shield creating a problem with ventilation. So that's really nice. You can also buy a photochromatic lens from Shoei. It's pricey, but it might be worth it for you. That lens will change based on the sun. So when the sun is out, it will darken just like those transition lenses. So that could be a nice addition to make up for the sun shield. If you really want a sun shield, look at the GT Air 2 or the Neotech 2 from Shoei. They're very similar helmets. One of them is a modular flip up, but both of those have the drop-down sun shield. They're a little bit heavier, a little bit bulkier, but they're more touring oriented, where this is more road and track oriented. And then the final thing, this is really just wear, but the pads have really worn down. You can see that the probably faux leather here is ripping off. They're still comfortable, but the cheek pads definitely have less push than they used to have. When I first bought this helmet, I had the chipmunk that I was looking for, where it's pushing your cheeks up when you're wearing it, and it felt very snug. It's starting to feel pretty loose now, and that's another reason why I want to replace this. You can just buy replacement cheek pads, but I'm in the market for a new helmet anyway. So as far as comparisons, the obvious comparison to this is the RF-1400. So this was made when the Shoei RF-1200 was the hot kid on the block and the best helmet from Shoei for road and a bit of track. Now there's the RF-1400, so it's a bit pricier. It's not much more expensive. I think it's in the mid 600s, whereas this is a $500 lid. But it's worth looking at if you want, if you're doing more track riding, you want a more serious helmet. What I will say is the materials. I tried on that Z8, which is the RF-1400 in the Japan market. Same helmet, just some different colorways. And the inside is the exact same. Like the materials are the same, the feel is the same. I was kind of shocked that they put the same materials in the RF-SR as the more expensive RF-1400. Would have thought that would be some way that they could differentiate. But yeah, the RF-1400, also a good lid. That's probably the next one that I'll buy. Our contributor, Carl, has an RF-1400 as well, and I'd like him to write a review pretty soon. So another two to compare this lid to are the HJC RAF11 and AGV K6. They're in the same price range. But keep in mind, those are not Snell certified. So they're quality helmets, but you may not be allowed to ride on the tracks that you want to ride in the USA, because a lot of US tracks require the Snell certification. And then the final two to compare this helmet to are the GT Air 2 and the Shoei Neotech 2. Both of those are more touring oriented, where this is more road and track oriented. They're about in the same price range. Like I said earlier, they have the drop-down sun shield. One of those is going to be modular, where you can flip up the chin bar. They're a little bit heavier, so just other ones to consider. I've really, really liked this helmet, even though most of what I do is touring in it. I really like it for touring. I think of the Shoei RF-SR as an affordable premium helmet. This is definitely not an entry-level helmet. There's a lot of nice features in here. It fits really well. It's very quiet. It's very comfortable. It vents super well. So it matches a lot of much more expensive helmets, and it's Snell certified, which is tough to find. So a quick point on Snell certification. So this helmet and the Arai Regent X are the only two helmets I could find that are Snell certified with composite shells. So there are a couple polycarbonate helmets that are Snell certified, but I wouldn't really want to bring those into an intense situation like a track day, because they're not going to bend and flex and withstand a crash as well as a composite shell. And you might say, well, they're both Snell certified, right? They both passed the test. So why is the $160 HJC that's Snell certified with a polycarb shell any worse than this with a composite shell? They both passed the same test. So you need to understand that blindly trusting any safety certification, or especially Snell, as more safe really doesn't tell the whole story. So Snell's 2020 and 2025 D standards, which are the ones used in the US, they focus on multiple impacts in the same area, which favors thicker and heavier designs. So that test method, it was designed for race car crashes primarily, which makes sense considering that the Snell Foundation is named after Pete Snell, who died in 1956 from a car crash. So the Snell that you're going to find on US lids is going to be more attuned to single impacts in a single area multiple times. So That explains why RF-SR and Snell helmets are also not ECE rated, because ECE focuses more on rotational forces, which favors lighter and slimmer helmets, whereas Snell's multiple impacts in one area favors thicker and heavier helmets. So it's really hard to comply to both the Snell D format that's used in the USA and ECE. So I chose this RF-SR because at the time I was in the US, I wanted to travel across the country and I wanted something that was better than DOT certified. I saw the Snell certification, I thought, okay, that would be better. Since then, I've learned a lot more about Snell and about ECE and all these different safety ratings. But in the US also, it's more difficult to find an ECE rated helmet. They favor more DOT and Snell rated helmets. So I just wanted something better than DOT. I think this RF-SR, it's an outstanding choice for riders, especially in hot climates that want something that ventilates really well, but still want a fully protective full face. They don't want to get an open face or a half helmet. And also for touring and street riders that just want a lightweight and comfortable helmet that works all around and don't want to spend $1,000 on it. This is a really, really good lid for you. And finally, any riders that are looking to do a little bit of track riding who want that Snell certification, this is a great, more budget option than what you're going to pay for other higher end Snell helmets like the RF-1400 or Arise that are higher in price than what this offers. For $500, this is an amazing value. So check out the links below to learn more about this Shoei RF-SR. That's all I got. Peace.